Are the extremes of human endeavour the domain of an elite few? Can an ordinary member of the public be trained physically and mentally to take on one of the world's toughest challenges?
The challenge moment of truth.
In 3 months, Paul Hogan, a 33-year-old businessman from Fulham, will attempt to race to the magnetic North Pole.
My God, the polar race, an expedition-length race to the magnetic North Pole.
The Fujitsu Polar Challenge is a non-stop race to the North Pole across 360 miles of frozen Arctic Ocean. 20 days on skis pulling 90-kilogram sleds in temperatures as low as -40 centigrade. This is one of the most severe tests of human endurance in the world.
That's unbelievable. You will race day and night across a landscape where the only other living thing you'll meet, the polar bears, will want to eat you.
The challenge we're here to discuss now is a high Arctic polar race. It's called the Polar Challenge. It's up in the far north of Canada. With just 10 weeks until the race, our task is to get Seamus physically and mentally prepared. Temperatures are -30, and on top of that, of course, storms can come, bears can come. You can fall in the sea, so it is a dangerous, dangerous place to be.
Yeah, I think this will evoke potentially quite a number of quite primal fears.
OK, well, our man who's going to take on this is 33 years old, Paul Hogan, also known as Seamus, and this is him at selection.
So glass half full, man, or glass half empty?
Glass is always half full.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Because it's much more interesting that way, isn't it? Why be half empty when you can be half full?
He's charismatic, isn't he? He's engaging, he's upbeat, but underneath it all, I do wonder what kind of foundation is really there.
It's the mental determination to go on and on, even when it gets cold, when you're fed up. That's the strength he must show.
He's had no experience whatsoever at these prolonged type of events. We are talking here about 300 miles in a period of 10 to 12 days. It's that endurability that's really crucial. Does he have the physical attributes that are required for this type of challenge? And importantly, does he have the experience? And the answer to both those questions is no.
I'll watch with interest.
Not all teams will make it to the finish, but the team you were joining entered the race last year and... They entered last year and won, so absolutely no additional pressure there at all.
Seamus will be joining ex-Royal Marines Rob Lewis and Chris McLeod, the winner of last year's race. Both Rob and Chris are trained Arctic warfare specialists.
Hopefully he'll leave his ego behind, if he has one, and he needs to get to the stage where, however big and tough he is, or he thinks he is, he can talk to us and express when he's feeling tired, when he's cold, when he needs us to give him a hand, and that's important.
Yeah. Team dynamics are absolutely essential in any environment where one slip up or one mistake costs lives.
It is a team effort. We're going to have to, we said to Seamus, pick up your skis, run towards that bear, we'll cover you with the rifle. But Seamus has got to be able to trust us enough, basically with his life, in order to get rid of the bear. The Arctic will find any weakness, it'll sort of root it out, and there's no hiding behind it, and we will all of us have bad days.
To prepare a training plan, Greg must first assess Seamus's fitness.
Hi.
Welcome, Paul. How you going?
How are you?
Not too bad.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, good.
Come across and take a seat for a second. We're going to exercise you to exhaustion. Okay. What I'm interested in is maximum oxygen uptake. So basically, how well your heart and lungs are working together, together with your muscles. What we're going to be doing is we're essentially taking samples of the air that you expire. We compare that to what's in the ambient air, and from that we can calculate how much oxygen you're using. Mm-hmm. The more oxygen you can use at maximum, the better, essentially. Just going to hang in for as long as we possibly can now. Just come forward in the treadmill shade for me. Good lad. When you look at Seamus, he looks like a fairly well-conditioned individual, and in fact he is, in terms of strength, in terms of his aerobic capacity. But then he's actually not in bad shape. But specifically, he's in rugby shape. What he requires is an endurability. He's going to be going for prolonged periods of time at a very low intensity. Right, pop your hands on the side for me. Pop your hands on the side. Off you come, off you come. Very nice indeed. Well done, well done. That's fantastic work. Good lad, good lad. Your VO2 is actually very good.
What's my VO2?
VO2 is the volume of oxygen that you can consume. So basically what that tells me is the volume of oxygen you're consuming gives me an idea of the integration of the heart, the lungs and the muscles and how well they're working together to actually uptake oxygen and then consume it. The leap for Seamus is huge because he is a large, muscular, strong individual, and that really require when we're talking about the race to the pole. He needs to be lighter in weight, more aerobic in nature, and that's really quite a difficult task. It can be done, but usually it takes much longer than we've actually got with Seamus, and that's going to be the crucial factor, is trying to change him in such a short period of time.
His training begins with 4 hours of cardiovascular work every day.
Just started a new job. Baby due on the 12th of Feb. And now the North Pole in April. Unbelievable. Wicked. Absolutely wicked. That's how I feel right now. Just wicked.
In the Arctic, Seamus will have to pull a 90-kilo sled carrying everything he needs to survive. He's training with tyres to build the stamina necessary to race for 14 hours a day.
The first couple of hours tends to actually be quite almost enjoyable, but then after maybe 3 or 3.5 hours, I just get incredibly bored with myself. You know, I'm just not that interesting after a while. When you train for an hour, you train it's very intense, and the endorphins kick in. You actually enjoy it. When you train at low intensity like this, that doesn't happen. So it's just dreary. And at the end of it, instead of any feeling of elation, it's just a very flat, battered, knackered feeling.
Hard work.
Yeah.
Training or something.
I'm taking part in a race to the magnetic North Pole.
Oh, right.
This is a big fella, isn't he?
Yes. Well, he'd like that.
Yeah. He's better built for it.
He'd help you with those things.
He's better built for it than I am, isn't he?
Good luck.
Thank you.
If today is anything to go by, this challenge is all in the arse and in the calves, because my ass is very, very sore now. If I manage to do this and do it well, I tell you what, it'll be the purchase bottom I've ever had in my life.
Rugby was Seamus's passion, but he had to give it up following an eye injury.
Seamus had to have emergency eye surgery to save the eyesight in his right eye. It was a very scary period because to be a young, fit, healthy, sporty guy on a Sunday and facing loss of eyesight on a Monday is quite traumatic, and it's just quite a shock. He was quite depressed afterwards, although he wouldn't admit it. He found it very difficult to come to terms with the fact that he lost control. His eye let him down, and it impacted on how he wanted to live his life, and how he would like to have lived his life was to play rugby forevermore. So he needed a new focus.
Very, 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 very excited. It's going to be an awesome 2004.
With just 6 weeks left to train, the challenge has come at a unique moment in Seamus's life.
This is Rory Oliver Patrick Hogan.
God,
a little bugger, isn't he?
Quite a set of lungs, isn't it? This period for anyone who's just had a baby is tough. But what we've done is we've added an enormous challenge to what is already recognised as a very difficult time. They need a lot of attention. They beat to their own drum, and they don't understand what time of day it is. They just do what they do when they do.
Come here. He's been very gnarly. Little bugger has been keeping us awake. Haven't you?
To race across 360 miles of pack ice, Seamus must build his endurance and stamina. He's now training 25 hours a week.
Right now I'm pulled in all sorts of directions. It's a very precious time at Rory, so I want to spend as much time with him and Sophie as I can. I've started a new job relatively recently and I need to make sure that doesn't suffer in any shape or form. And then I've also got this sort of ludicrous training agenda where I've got lots of hours to fit in, and 24 hours isn't enough. There isn't time. It's the most challenging scenario I've ever been in.
I'd be lying if I said I don't have reservations. And what we've got here is essentially a decent man, a kind man, a good man, a man who does feel a great deal. And the classic polar explorer, the classic person you'd send to the Arctic, doesn't. He would be essentially cold, distant, and able to dissociate from his emotions very quickly. Now, that isn't Seamus. So, asking a gentleman to undertake this kind of challenge at this particular moment, it's a hell of an ask, it really is.
The Fujitsu Polar Challenge is one of the most dangerous races on the planet. To be allowed to take part, the organisers require each team to complete a week of Arctic training in Norway.
I'm looking forward to finding out how challenging cross-country skiing is or isn't. Because, I mean, it looks dead easy on the Winter Olympics, doesn't it? So we'll see.
Civilian guy working his civilian job day to day. He's gone from working in an office, typing on a computer, to minus 40, pushing a 90 kilo pulk. If he doesn't get it right, he will have problems. So his learning curve is the steepest I can possibly imagine. Everything from pulling a pulk, to lighting a fire, to making his hands cold, not enough food, not peeing enough. Every finer detail has to be correct. Otherwise, he will be a liability, a rescue case, and worst case scenario, a recovery, and that's what we don't want. A recovery is disaster. And I guess everyone understands what I mean by recovery. Recovery is death. Come on guys, control descent. Use your poles, good. Poles, not your hand, numbnuts. Poles!
In the Arctic, racers will be crossing a combination of flat sea ice and mountainous terrain. Seamus has to learn how to use his pulk as a toboggan.
He's got a lot to learn, clearly. That said though, he's enjoying himself.
You know, he's resilient, robust, good sense of humour. You know, that's the main thing. If he was down in the dumps and going, you know, bloody cold and, you know, I don't want to be here. He's not. He's upbeat, he's enthusiastic, still laughing at my jokes. He's a great guy and he's getting on really well.
The race will be unsupported, which means they must carry all their own kit and food. Each will drag a 90-kilogram pulk.
Not too sure if the technique is very efficient yet, but it gets tough after a while. Be interested to see how I feel after 12 or 15 hours of this thing. Different kind of story.
One of his biggest challenges is, at this stage, I don't feel that he knows how far he's about to push himself, mentally and physically.
300 miles of the race is across the frozen Arctic Ocean. There is always the risk of thin ice.
Got to take in consideration, you are a grown man who's got a baby now. This is a dangerous thing you're going to do. You happy to do it?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah,
You're sure?
Yeah.
The chance of your heart stopping is reasonably high, okay? As soon as you're in there, rucksack off, yeah? Otherwise that will drag you to the bottom. What will happen, your body will just go, because your blood is freezing. Remember, if you get it wrong, your heart will stop. Stop, stop. Put your hands down the poles, good lad. dig, 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 dig.
The high Arctic is one of the most dangerous places on Earth. Seamus and his team will have to trust each other with their lives.
Go, Seamus, go, Seamus, go, Seamus. Again, go.
Seamus is rolled in the snow to absorb as much water as possible. If Seamus falls through the pack ice in the Arctic, his team will have about 8 minutes to pitch a tent, light a stove and restore his core body temperature. If this drill isn't fast enough, he will become hypothermic and die.
All right, fella, well done. I'm done.
Okay?
Well done.
Ready, Brett, glow.
You warm?
I'm toasting.
Yeah, yeah. So early days, yeah, but I think 4 early days you're doing very, very well. And
Ski like a maniac.
yeah, I've been really pleased.
Yeah.
Ready for a beer?
Ready for a beer. Let's go.
Absolutely, let's go.
The first hour or two this week has been enjoyable. The second hour or two has been less enjoyable. Then the subsequent probably 3 to 4 hours have been a slog. They're painful. I suppose I do think, why am I doing this? I may well hate it, but if I hate it and I'm halfway, between Resolute and the Magnetic North Pole, there's not a great deal I can do about it.
So how are you feeling?
Now that it's gone, it's kind of...
Arctic training alone is not enough to equip Seamus for the 20 days of the Polar Challenge. Gary must prepare him for the psychological demands of the race.
And confidence. The other concern I still have, when I'm knackered, I get impatient. So we're cooking, it's delicate, it's cold, I don't want to spill the water.
Okay.
I need to be careful with the campfire. When I'm really tired, I'll get irritable and I'll force it. If it doesn't work, use brute force rather than subtle thought is kind of my natural approach. I need to make sure I don't do that, because if I break something, we have to live with it for the rest of the race.
So when you get impatient or irritable, tell me what happens.
Instead of taking my time, funneling hot water into the flask and doing it gently, I was trying to do it too quick. And what I did, I started spilling over and it was burning my hand. Now, instead of stopping and doing something bad, I just carried on. So I just thinking, okay, well, it won't burn me too much. Kind of mentality. It's more just get the bloody thing done, and if it hurts a little bit or if I do something wrong, just force it through.
There must be a voice going through your head at that point, going, either just get on with it or I'm getting bored or whatever it was. Can you hear that voice now?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking, just want to get this done so I can get on with it.
It's much more productive for you as a loving new father to think, okay, now if that was Rory, what would I be telling him to do? That's Rory in 20 years' time or whatever. And be gentle with yourself and be kind to yourself, and you will find that by changing the voice in your head, and it changes the way you feel about the situation, by changing the way you feel about the situation, you change the way you react.
With only 2 weeks left, Seamus is taking advantage of a business trip to Jersey to get some valuable training in.
I'm hoping the Terminator will feel like having walked for about 10 hours when the limbs are tired and the shoulders and chest are just sore. Because the puck doesn't weigh quite so much across the ice, but over time it does.
When he mentioned he was going to the Arctic, the first thoughts were, it's going to be bloody freezing there, and anybody who voluntarily goes to minus 40 degrees needs his brain examined.
How do they organise the loos? I mean, if you want to scratch your nose, your finger could fall off. And also, I wonder, will he arrive back after 3 weeks with a beard? Because they won't be able to shave or anything.
He will do.
They'll be pretty dirty, won't they? There won't be much showers or...
No.
No.
With 1 week to go, it's time to see if Seamus's training has paid off.
Bit nice and relaxed on there. Good lad, looks good, looks really good. Let's keep it together. Everything you got now, Seamus, everything you got. Dig in now, dig in. Good, good, good. Let's keep it focused now. When you can't go any further, pop your hands on the side. That's excellent, excellent. Great work, under you come. Well done. Perfect. Good lad, good lad. Okay, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Now keep moving. Great work. You went 1 minute and 30 into that final stage. She went a minute longer. And that's significant.
Would you have expected me to have improved by more? Honest answer.
I'd have liked you to have improved more.
Yeah.
I think that's the honest answer. But then that's always going to be the answer, I think. I think what you always have to appreciate is how long you've had to train. And at the end of the day, it's been a very short period of time. I'd have liked to have seen more improvement.
How much more?
More. I mean, the fact that he hasn't improved as much as I expected him to is disappointing, and that's because he hasn't done the training. The Arctic is exceptionally cold, exceptionally dry. If you're not prepared, then you could be in trouble. And I think that Seamus is in a position where he's not as prepared as we wanted him to be, and so therefore the danger has increased. Good luck.
Final words of wisdom, good luck.
Have you got on well?
Am I very nasty leaving you behind for 3.5 weeks, Rory? Am I? What do you think, little fella? Hey? That's I think exactly how I feel.
Just come back safe. I promise.
I promise.
I promise.
As long as you promise to look after yourself.
Before venturing onto the ice, there's one final thing Seamus needs to learn.
Okay, so standard Remington pump-action shotgun.
Right.
Full bore.
Right.
That's the cartridge. That will take the back out of a bear and it'll cut a human in half.
Right.
So, particularly dangerous. Take aim, bring it up to the target. Try and make it in a slick movement.
Right.
So, in.
Yeah.
Not quite Rambo, but lines. And in your own time, just squeeze the shot.
They took my teeth out.
We did meet bears last year. There is a potential that a bear may come into the camp looking for food, and the only way you're going to stop that is to shoot the bear.
Polar bear front! Forward! Pick up the weapon!
Bottom line is they're looking for an easy meal. So we train them not to be an easy meal.
Cock it.
Seven teams are embarking on this race to the magnetic North Pole, but before they can start, competitors must walk 75 miles to acclimatise to the severe conditions. For the next 3 weeks, teams will be racing for 12 to 16 hours a day, pulling the equivalent of their own body weight on pulks. When they're not on skis, they will be pitching tents, melting snow to drink, and will only get around 4 hours sleep a night. The psychological aspects of this undertaking are enormous. There are real fears in this environment. It's a very frightening place, be it that the cold is going to damage you or that a bear is going to come up and kill you. It's very difficult to know if you've got the strength to keep going when you become exhausted. Seamus's rugby playing in Britain shows that he's a fit individual, but has he got the strength mentally to go through this?
Oh boy, it's a hell of a lot tougher than I ever thought it was going to be, because it's not just a race. The race, the first thing out here is just survival. The weather and the elements are unbelievable. I understand now why people don't come to the pole. It's so cold. That wind has just been ripping into our faces. I had no idea how much damage you can do to yourself. If you make a mistake here, you know, you're history. Ugh, that's ugly, isn't it? All of these here are little bits of frostbite.
It's an art to cope with this environment without getting hurt. So people are getting hurt.
And this one here? Yeah.
They haven't reached the start line and already there are serious injuries.
Okay, unfortunately you've got frostbite from here and here. It's really obvious. Yeah. I'm afraid we're going to have to evacuate you from the race. Frostbite has set in fairly quickly, as is evident this morning. It's a shame, but we need to take action now to save their fingers, really.
Are you on a hill or are you in the valley?
The race organisers get news that another team is in trouble and in need of rescue.
You're on top of the hill.
So I understand you went down with hypothermia?
1 minute I'm walking along and next minute I'm getting pushed into a tent by my teammates, straight into a bag, a couple of hot water bottles down my front and that was it. I just didn't have a clue where I was.
Okay guys, let's as soon as you're ready we'll pack up and start moving.
Craig was lucky because one of the big problems you have with a hypothermic victim is that they can appear completely dead, you can't identify a pulse or anything, and yet they might not be there yet. And what you've got to try and do is to warm them up again and see if they're still dead. The adage is you're never dead until you're warm and dead.
Ozzy, I need a plane mate to take individuals off the ice. Position is 74 degrees, 50 minutes, north.
After just 2 days on the ice, 6 people have to be evacuated. I think they're feeling this combination of sadness and fantastic relief. This is a very, very hard place to be. There's an extraordinary feeling if you get picked up. This utter sadness that you haven't completed it, perhaps, combined with just this wonderful feeling that I'm going home.
I don't think I'll ever look out of a plane again the same way. You see the fluffy clouds below you, and you always wonder what it'd be like to sort of walk on those or bounce on those. That's what the Arctic feels like, with the sun is shining and the wind is just blowing the breeze across. I mean, it's an incredible, exhilarating experience. And it's so vast. It gives you a perspective of our significance, which isn't very big.
The night before the race begins, none of the teams have made it to the start line.
The weather's closed in, so we sent out snowmobiles to find everybody. Team Fujitsu are about 1.2 kilometres just outside the camp. My guess is that they've actually put the tent up. Knowing Chris is probably just in there eating away, and he'll walk in here in the morning ready for a good start tomorrow.
Oh man, it takes, once we set off, it takes about 20 minutes of searing pain before I've felt my hands.
Severe weather has caused further injuries. Just 5 teams will start the race.
I love this place. Yeah. I really love it. Joy, sunshine, and rain. Give it to me, give it to me.
The Eiger Boys tent has just blown away, which is a really critical problem in polar regions. As you take it down or put it up, it's very easy to lose it, and if it goes and you're out there with no one to help, you have had it.
It needed airing anyway, because it's starting to smell. We had a bad morning this morning, but we put got the stoves back in and warmed up, and we're ready to go now. Morale's good, even though I am crying.
You alright, guys?
Yeah, man.
Sure?
Cold.
All works?
All works, man.
Run around for 30 seconds.
I'm
Literally,
gonna
run over there, run
I'm
back.
running that way, back to Resolute. Nothing prepares you for this whatsoever. I mean, they can talk a good show and they say, yeah, it's going to be cold, it's going to be minus 40, it's going to be minus 60. But until you're actually standing here, in it, and feeling it, it just shakes you to your bones.
One of the most difficult things to do in the Arctic is go to the loo. Here, at base, there's a bit of a shelter, but out there, you've got to find the lee of anything you can. It's not the nether regions that get frozen, it's actually your hands. You need to have no gloves on to do the business.
I've torn the crotch of my suit trying to go for a dump. I'm not doing that again.
How have you found the first leg?
Much tougher than I thought it would be to get to the start. I've never had to walk for 4.5 days. So 80 odd miles or 60 odd miles, whatever it is, to start.
Start into a vicious wind, and although I think the temperature's probably only minus 15 or 20, I bet the wind chill's more than minus 50, and that's bare skin freezing in 30 seconds a minute. They're going to suffer with their faces and their hands. Seamus and Team Fujitsu now have to race across 285 miles of frozen wilderness. The sun never goes down, so the racers' only limitation will be their own endurance and how long they can go for without sleep.
My real challenge today is to keep up with the pace.
Seamus's team have taken an early lead, but Team Northern Lights are only 2 hours behind.
We're very much the underdogs. We're a two-person team, not three people, which I think makes us a bit weaker in some ways. I mean, it'd be nice to make them go a bit too hard for a few days, tire themselves out, and then maybe we could get ahead. That would be nice, but we're just not worrying about it really.
We're just trying to make them nervous.
And I think if we can put them off their plan.
Yeah, get them nervous.
We reckon that Hannah and Chris are our main competition. They seem to be keeping up with us so far. Seamus, you overheard Chris talking? They're following us yesterday. I reckon that for every...
They're saving 10 minutes in the hour.
10 minutes in every hour, yeah. So what they're doing is they're watching us make the dog legs and then cutting the corner. So we're doing all the navigation for them.
Hannah and Chris are accomplished mountaineers. Hannah has experienced similar conditions climbing Everest. Yeah, it looks like Northern Lights are following close on Fujitsu's track, and I guess it's their plan is to keep behind them until perhaps they see them stop and then sneak past.
Yeah, actually they're only 5 miles behind.
It'd be really interesting to see what shape they're in.
Yeah.
You know.
Because they've had some big days to put it in.
I hope they're as we are, though.
Oh, they will be.
Okay.
As far as speed over the ground is concerned, I think Fujitsu probably do move a bit faster than Northern Lights, but Northern Lights are not stopping as often. So as they head on towards checkpoint 1, it'll be interesting to see which team actually arrives first.
Can you see that? Polar bear turd. I'm nervous about something daft happening with polar bears. I'm more nervous about that I am about actually competing in the race. And I'm nervous if the bears actually get leery and attack.
The race organisers receive a distress call from Hannah and Chris.
Tell them to switch his phone on the hour.
Okay, and continue to switch your phone on the hour and the half hour. All right, mate, we'll see you soon.
We're trying to find the Northern Lights because they phoned in, they're having trouble with a bear. GPS position they've given us, they're not at, so we're currently trying to track the bear and find them. Lots of bear prints everywhere, as you can see.
We started about 100 metres away, walked gradually goes up. Did the skis in the air routine, waving, shouting, still kept coming closer. Got within about 25 yards and I shot one over its head and one into the ground. It certainly made you think, if the gun was iced up, what on earth would you do?
I kept thinking that, sort of it'll stay away from us. Yeah.
And now everything looks like polar bears. It's all polar bears.
The bear has cost Northern Lights precious time, and Fujitsu are now 10 miles ahead of them.
We've been on our feet for just over 9 hours. We've covered 30 kilometres and we're aiming to do another 20. Sounds pretty ambitious, pretty painful.
Seamus is looking as if he's suffering, and he's finding these very long days very hard work.
I've hit lows that I've never hit before in my life. I felt so mentally fatigued and physically fatigued. That's been tough.
The toughness of this first stretch of the race is going to have taken its toll on Seamus in terms of confidence. And I think it must raise the possibility that when he reaches checkpoint 1, he'll say, you know, enough is enough, even though that'll be such a difficult thing to do. Fujitsu is the first team to reach checkpoint 1, 4 hours ahead of Northern Lights.
You're going to dump your sledges and everything here, and if you could clear your weapon while you're in camp, just show me there's not one down the chamber. That would be good.
Oh my god. Ah. Oh, well done, boys.
Broken the back of the race, really.
Oh, I don't know, has it?
Yeah, we're halfway. Half out of the way now. More than halfway.
Only another 6 or 7 days to go.
At the checkpoint, teams will be resupplied with food and fuel, heading off on the second half of the race.
This has been an incredible first leg. I mean, it's still, we're still a long way to go. It's been so much tougher than I thought. Today was just hard work every step of the way. I'm absolutely exhausted. I mean, I feel less tired because I'm really chuffed to be here, really happy to be here. But I'm absolutely... My legs feel like a dead weight. In the last 2 days, we've done 80 kilometres. That's 2 marathons. In the 9 days before that, we did the equivalent of 8 marathons, and we've got 7 marathons to do now in 6 days. So the physical side is just immense, but it's all the stuff around it that makes it. And that's just one part of the challenge. The rest is the tent routine, the cooking, the boiling of water, the mental fight, because that's what it is—a mental challenge to keep going.
Good to see you. Stop there. Okay, checking you in now at 10:19, okay?
Chris and Hannah have arrived at checkpoint 1 and looking actually in fresher form, although it's been a long day for them, than Fujitsu were when they came in.
Well done, guys.
Today, they've actually come slightly further. They've been delayed by a bear, and they've done that distance in the same time too. So today they were moving at the same speed, if not faster. The race doctor has received a distress call from Team Eiger, who need assistance with an unusual injury.
Graham, what's happened? What's the problem?
Went to have a piss and nothing came out.
Right.
Looked down and my cock was frozen.
It's frozen?
Frozen about that much on the end. Looked like a bit of sausage out of the freezer.
Yeah, okay, let's have a look. Yep. I've got some gloves on. What's it been like since?
It's okay. It was bigger than that. It was swollen, more swollen. I haven't gone any further than that. It's numb at the end.
What's happened here is your foreskin around the end here has been frostbitten. Right. And that's why it's going to be difficult for you to wee. And the most important thing for you at the moment is being able to wee. Because out here, if you stop weeing to retention, then that'll be a little bit tricky. That'll be tricky. But pretty unlucky. Frostbitten penis.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even realise my zip was undone.
Jeff found out.
But they said everyone was fine.
Word of Graham's misfortune spreads fast.
He's frozen his knob!
What? No.
Graham's cancer back. He had frostbite on his knob.
No! He hasn't come out though. He's still in the race, is he?
No, they're out.
With the latest evacuations, there are only 2 teams left in the race. But if Fujitsu want to stay in the lead, they can't allow themselves more than 4 hours sleep.
5:30 in the morning. About to start a 65-mile leg. I've put out sledges for more than 200 miles. And before we can have porridge in the morning, we're going to melt snow for 2 hours.
Racers have to consume 9 litres of water and 7,000 calories a day to combat the cold and give them enough energy to race.
We've got about 8 persons' portions in one there.
my constitution out of the way.
To prevent drinking water from freezing, racers carry plastic bottles inside their clothing, but Seamus's has burst.
Rob! Bloody hell, mate, what are you doing?
Just leaked again.
His trousers, his gloves.
Staying dry is crucial in the Arctic. Seamus is now at real risk of getting frostbite.
That's 2 days in a row for Seamus. Just about to go.
Too easy to do.
Gosh, that's the water all over me. Yeah, let's make it difficult for the day.
I'm soaked to stiff. Every layer of clothing I'm wearing is damp.
I'll stiff that. Okay, tonight.
Put it this way, mate. As you have got frostbite at the top. Look on the bright side. That's one way of looking at it.
Ready to go, guys?
Yeah.
Seamus, can't afford to do more than 10 minutes, then we've got to go.
Dealing with the burst water bottle has reduced their lead on Northern Lights to 3 hours and affected Seamus's morale.
My feet really ache. I've got blisters that are playing up. I didn't sleep very well last night, so I got a bit of a chill. And I'm really struggling to get myself going.
Well, now out beyond checkpoint 1 and in more open ocean, the ice is much more moving when it settles. And what's happened here is that one ice floe has collided with another and raised this. This is a pressure ridge. And you get big blocks of ice thrown up into the air, presenting a wall across which Seamus and his team are trying to move with pults and skis. There's drifts, there's holes. They're in amongst that and moving very slowly at the moment.
It's like pulling a sled on skis over a building site for 20 kilometres. It's unbelievable. Up and down, round and round. I've never ever been this tired before. A couple of the legs when I was walking, I reckon I could have closed my eyes and fallen asleep as I stood.
Whilst following the teams, the race organisers and I have an unexpected encounter.
He's just getting downwind of us.
Yeah.
I understand Seamus has been dreaming about these with a fair amount of fear, and it's rightfully so. These are the natural rulers out here. They've got no natural predators. They'll view you as a perfect meal. I've always been terrified of these animals. There's always a feeling that they could either strike when you're in the tent, you wouldn't even know, or when you're head down and pulling, and the first thing you'd know about it is when they killed you.
You take control when you feel it's right, mate. Charlie.
Yeah.
Noises, guys, noises. That's the closest I'd like to get one, to be quite honest.
blisters are developing nicely, the heels are sore, the hip aches. We just got to keep on going.
Fujitsu? Yep.
Northern Lights are gaining on Fujitsu. They are now 4 miles behind.
Northern Lights? Northern Lights are going to be right with them or on their tail or in that sight, which is going to put the pressure on them all day long.
That's going to really depress him.
That will depress them all.
Personally, I'm beginning to feel very, very tired. You know, everything's an effort.
With their lead shrinking, Seamus finally encounters his biggest fear.
What do you want me to do, guys? Chris is on one flank with a gun, Rob's in the middle with a pair of skis, and I'm armed with a Sony camcorder.
The bear has cost Fujitsu an hour. Northern Lights are closing the gap.
We're in Fujitsu's tracks at the moment. There's been a bit of push and shove with Fujitsu that we've really tried not to pay any attention to, and we've just very much stuck to our own plan, which is, you know, as quick as possible, A to B.
Well, we've just come across Fujitsu, who are camped up, and look at though they're camped here for the night. I don't think they've got any idea that their main rivals, Northern Lights, are just a mile or two back behind them and intending to do another 4 hours yet, so I think they're in for a bit of a shock. Race rules dictate that the BBC crew are not allowed to share information on team positions.
Knock, knock, guys.
Hello? Hello, you've got visitors.
Who's that?
It's Mike Stroud.
Hey. As long as it's not Northern Lights, we don't mind.
Hello, Mike. Nice to see you.
How you doing?
Hi, guys.
Hey.
So how far behind do you think Northern Lights are?
I don't know. I'm trying to hope you explain that, Mike.
We
we've
can't
not
say
seen
anything
anybody
like that.
since going up the estuary, but we haven't seen them since.
We always knew they were going to be strong. I mean, Hannah is a tough cookie.
There's no way I want them to take us now.
It was fun to go past them, wasn't it? I think hopefully they'll have got quite a surprise. I don't expecting us to be close to them.
No, we quite enjoyed that moment.
Having held the lead for 10 days, Team Fujitsu have now got to fight to stay in with a chance of winning.
Because we just got to think, right, crank up the distance, crank up the yards.
We've not done the big days yet.
Yeah. Well, speak for yourself.
It's been easy. It's been easy, mate. So we've got to put in a big day today.
I mean, I know in 6 hours' time, I'm going to feel like death. And I know that I've got a 16-hour day ahead of me. You know, that's tough because I'm choosing to put myself through all this.
After a 16-hour day, Fujitsu covered 27 miles to retake the lead.
Having done so much, I think we're physically all exhausted. It's just becoming increasingly it's increasingly just a mental challenge. You know, do you want to succeed, or do you want to get to the end enough to force yourself to carry on, step after step after step?
It's like a a steady build-up, a cumulative effect of exhaustion. And I think we've reached that stage where it's not going to get any better now. It's just going to get slowly more painful every day as we go by.
So between the two of them, they will have to do the final 25 point something miles, probably head to head. That will cause a monumental race tomorrow morning.
This Polar Challenge is coming to an extraordinary conclusion in that they've travelled hundreds of kilometres across this Arctic waste, and Fujitsu and Northern Lights are really separated by just an hour or two.
Well, I think we're doing pretty well. We're feeling quite good.
Hannah and Chris look in fantastic shape. They're hard on Fujitsu's tail and they're going to give them the run for their money.
It'd be fun to beat the Royal Marines.
I know it.
Northern Lights are at 7614.
Now, we've got ourselves a race off and Hannah and Chris are right behind us. Just make sure we put some distance between us and them.
Fujitsu are at 7619. They have just booked in and they are continuing to ski till midnight.
Fujitsu are holding their lead, but Northern Lights are only 3 miles behind. It's really down to whichever team is prepared to dig really deep and turn on that last burst over the miles that are left.
At this stage now, it's just I want to get there. I want to get to the end.
Seamus must be utterly exhausted as he approaches the end. His muscles are going to be screaming. Seamus is going to have to not let his teammates down because they are determined that they will cross that line first. After 20 days and 360 miles, Seamus, Rob and Chris crossed the line to win the toughest Arctic endurance race in the world.
It's been much more than I ever expected. Much tougher, but much more rewarding. I mean, at one stage out there, it was like talking to God. We were walking, we could almost see the curve of the earth. The clouds came in, and it really felt like we were, you know, on the road to the pearly gates, as they say. It's just been surreal at times, absolutely surreal. I probably haven't cried much in the last 30 years, and in the last 2 weeks, it's brought me to tears a number of times. I've refound my tear ducts, highs and lows like I've never had before. It's just totally overpowering, overwhelming. It's incredible.